everybody listening to us.
If not,
it looks
then we'll...
like it looks like
yes,
it's happening.
It's live.
Hi,
everybody. We are live. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to Grateful, Ready, Open, Willing. This is Arnold Mangioli, and I'm with some of my favorite people on the planet. Lindsay Bristol, my assistant, who you've heard before on the phone, is joining us as our technical stage manager, backstage, help me, Lindsay, I'm in trouble here person, and which she does so well. A few things.
It's a lot of responsibility.
And you do a great job. Thank you. A few things before we start. So we're doing this on I had to come up with a new platform because this is a conversation amongst 4 guests, and then Lindsay and I, as well as 6 people. So we're on something called StreamYard. Terry recommended it to me, as had some other folks. What you need to know is when you post a comment, it's going through StreamYard onto Facebook, and you're coming up as Facebook user. No one will know your name. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's not. So the way to get around that is there is a way to accept StreamYard.com in your Facebook, and that will allow, there's a way to do it. Let me just see what it says. It says show. All right. If not, the easy way that I would work around it is just type your name in before you put your comment, and we'll know who you are. Otherwise, we won't. So Lindsay's going to keep track of the comments for us. And Lindsay, you can see them there?
I can.
Awesome. Thank you. So I want to introduce you to these wonderful people. Before me, and I guess before you also, are Ken Roberson and Terry Burrell and Danielle. Sorry, I did it, Ken. I did that. Kenneth Roberson, retraining. We've known each other a long time. Terry Burrell and Danielle Greaves. And I am so grateful for their participation. SAHR NGAUJAH was joining us today as well. There may be a technological glitch, but if he comes in at some point in this, I think I can just add him in. But we're at the start time, so we're starting. I want to say a few things about today, and then I'm basically going to sit back and listen because a good friend of mine said to me recently, as I've been taking the journey of all that's going on in the world, she said to me, honey, you don't have to have any answers. Our job right now is just to listen. And we know that there hasn't been a lot of listening in the world over the last few years. And I think it's a really good time to start by bringing that back. So I just could not be happier than to introduce you to, and it's interesting, the 4 people who are here today are people who've been in my life a very long time, like decades. And I'm going to tell some stories. You want to know them because they're big show business professionals and they have amazing careers and they're like, you know, Tony nominated and stuff. So just know that, like, you know, they're very high pedigree. But for me, in my grateful, ready, open, willing obsession, they all represent, each of them represents all those aspects. But Kenneth Roberson to me is gratitude. Kenneth Roberson is just so grateful to be in any place at any time working on anything. We first met each other when I was a casting assistant at Hughes Moss Casting on Black and Blue, which is a show Ken starred in years ago. Quite something, wasn't it? Bunny Briggs and all the amazing people. And Kenneth sent me a letter. And at the bottom of the letter, it was like a picture of resume and a note. And he wrote in pen on the typewritten letter, he wrote, I choreograph too. And I called him up and I said, I'm directing a show. Will you choreograph it? And it's like, yes. And I guess, was that your first choreography job? Ken?
It was one of those, but I remember meeting this guy in the show that knew Leguizamo. He was a friend of John Leguizamo. And because of that job I did for you, and not Holyoke, I was able to work with John Leguizamo on Fox Television, a show called House of Bugging, and got an Emmy nomination.
Wow.
Because when you wanted actors for that show, I am a choreographer.
Beautiful.
That's what
beautiful story. So our advice to everyone is take the job. That's our advice. Great. And just Ken has always been someone who, wherever we are and whatever we're working on, even under really rough circumstances, he'll always say to me, Arnold, just be grateful we're here, be grateful we're working. So Ken is all of these things, but Ken is gratitude. SAHR, who I hope will be joining us at some point, is the epitome of readiness to me because when he auditioned for the role of Fela Kuti in Bill T. Jones' Fela, he did his initial audition, and Bill T. Jones said to him, "That's very good. Could I ask you to do it again and just think of Fela Kuti, you know Fela?" And SAHR just laughed almost maniacally and said, "Fela," and ripped off all his clothes and got in just his briefs, the way Fela was always interviewed, and created Fela right in front of us. His readiness is just a seminal moment for me in my casting and audition life. Terry Burrell is so many things to me. And openness,
to a bunch of folk.
Openness is just such a big one because years ago, I was casting a production of Smokey Joe's Cafe.
Ooh, I can tell this is a good one.
I'm telling Terry. And I brought Terry in for Brenda because she is sophisticated and gorgeous and wildly talented and has often played the fairy godmother in productions of Cinderella and was perfect. And we didn't find the perfect BJ for that show. And the director said to me afterwards, he called me up and he said, "Would you, I have an idea. You're going to think I'm crazy. I want you to see Terry Burrell. I want to see Terry Burrell for BJ." And I said, "For BJ?" And he said, "Yes, just do it." I said, oh, okay. So I called the agent and I got, not the agent I deal with at that agency, but another one who we were chatting a little bit. And I said, "Well, I need to talk to Phil about Terry Burrell for BJ." And she went, "For BJ?" And I said, "Yeah, I know." But yeah, and she's like, "All right, I'll put you through to Phil." And I got on the phone with Phil and I said, "I want to know if Terry Burrell will come for BJ." And Phil went, "For BJ?" And I said, "Yeah, I know. So that was on a Friday. That Sunday, my partner and I are coming from church and we're walking up 9th Avenue. And who do I see walking down 9th Avenue, a block in the distance? But this Terry Burrell, who walks right up to me, and from a block away, we eye each other and she says, "For BJ? For BJ? For BJ, you want to see me?" And she said, I said to my agent, I got that call. I said to my agent, what casting director called you with that request? And he said, "Arnold J." I said, "You know what? I'm going in. Going in. And guess who booked it, by the way?
Okay.
And I said it in the room too. When I finished singing, I looked at the director and I said, "BJ."
Yes. Totally awesome example of openness. Not the role I see myself as, not the role anyone sees me as. I am open to trying it out. And P.S., I saw the production and she was fabulous. Of course. Danielle Greaves is the very definition of willingness to me.
Yes.
I'm going to tell the cab story, Danielle.
Oh.
When I was casting Hal Prince and Susan Stroman's production of Showboat, that was back in the day where we used telephones.
Yes.
And I needed an African-American who could sing kick-ass alto for one of the roles. It was a beautiful featured part where she creates the Charleston in Act 2. Mm-hmm. And I found Danielle's resume and I thought, this girl's got pedigree. She could do it. Let's try it. I'll bring her directly at Hal Prince. And I called and I got a voicemail answering machine. And it was about 10 o'clock at night because it's not unusual for a casting director to be in their office until all hours, midnight and beyond. And I left a message. I left a voicemail and I said, "If you get this message and if you are up for this, please show up at the Gershwin Theater tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. And I'd love you to come and sing for Hal Prince." And I remember walking into the Gershwin Theater. I was, maybe 60 yards away, carrying bagels and snacks for the morning for the creative team and such. And a cab pulled up like something out of Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it was just like a James Bond movie. The door flung open, and the woman, whose beautiful definitive face I recognized immediately from her headshot, is looking like, "I am here, I made it, I am dressed, my hair is washed, I got my music in my hand." And I said, "Are you Danielle?" And she was like, "What? Yes." And we went in, and guess who booked it, by the way?
Terry Burrell.
I got another Showboat story.
All right, well, we can do this. We can do this all day, and I will let you tell that one, Terry. But But
Yeah.
I just want to let everybody know what we are here for today. Well, we're talking about Black Lives Matter, and for me, these are some of the people I would go to personally. My partner and I sort of are looking at what we can do and ways we can help and ways we can be involved. And one way is we're contacting African-American Black friends that we have and just saying, you matter to me. I don't know if you want to hear that. I don't know if it's appropriate for me to say that, but I want to say that because I don't know what you're going through right now. And it's probably some tough stuff. And I just want you to know I'm here and you matter to me. And that's what I can say. And if you want to talk more than that, we can. And if you don't, we don't have to. But these are right here some people who I would go to, people I've known over 2 decades. I would go to and I would say, can we talk about this? Can I listen? Can you tell me things? These are people I trust spiritually as some of the most evolved people I know in my life. Not talking about color. Ken, you want to say what you said before we started?
I'll tell you what he said. He said, Arnold, make sure that you let those people know that you knew us way before Black Lives Matter. That you weren't looking for some Black friends to talk, some Black people to talk.
But
yes, we have all known Arnold for a very, very long time.
And my life is so blessed by these people. And these are people I would go to and say, can you talk about this? I want to listen. And it occurred to me because we have this group, because we have Grateful, Ready, Open, Willing, because we are creating and it is evolving this safe space for performing arts professionals, theater people, creative people of all kinds to talk and to learn and to bring these practices more into our work and our lives, that we could have this conversation here. And we could have it in the context of those 4 attributes: gratitude, readiness, openness, and willingness. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to throw out each of those topics, one every 10 minutes, and I'm going to shut up and I'm going to ask you guys to talk. I would like to structure this in what is I've heard referred to as a brilliant conversation. Some of you know I work as a life coach. I do life coaching for actors and artists. I've been doing it for years. And I've trained at a number of places, among those the Coaches Training Institute. And one of the exercises from the Coaches Training Institute is a brilliant conversation. And what that is a conversation with certain guidelines. The guidelines are as follows. There does not need to be a resolve. That is not the point of a brilliant conversation. A brilliant conversation involves listening to one another, really paying attention and giving your full attention to what the other person is saying and to their heart and to their words. And then responding with your thoughts on the subject as affected by the person who spoke before you. The success of a brilliant conversation is not that you reach a conclusion, but that later on you're still thinking about it. Later that night, the next day, there are thoughts, there are new ideas forming in your mind because of something you heard, because you were listening carefully enough for something to affect you and to spark more thinking. That, very simply put, is a brilliant conversation. So I would like to invite these wonderful people, and SAH is here.
Hi.
Welcome,
Hi.
SAH.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Hi. Sorry for the hold up.
Hello.
No, not at all. It's a joy to have you. Kenneth Roberson, Terry Burrell, DANIELLE Greaves, SAHR NGAUJAH.
Hi, you guys. Hi.
I've been talking the whole time, doing a big introduction, and I was just saying that I'm about to shut up and let you all talk and listen to one another and allow us to benefit from your hearts and souls and minds. So I will start with the topic of gratitude. Again, asking, is there any place in all of this for it? Is Black Lives Matter outside of that? Can we help? Can it help? What does that mean to you? And I offer it to you. Thank you.
What I would like to say that for me, gratitude means being grateful for what is. My mother would always say, be grateful for what is. It's hard to have gratitude in this moment for me. And I realized today that being grateful doesn't mean that you like it, that you like what's going on. Being grateful is that I'm grateful to be in this environment, to search my heart and soul of what it means to me, what it means to my family, what it means to my relationship with God. Now, that being said, to follow your lead about responding to what you said before, I'm going to respond to you about the gratitude. I'm so grateful over the years in the way you would ask me certain things that you may have been confused about or you wanted to know how to go forward. And so that's something I'm grateful for. I would say that I'm grateful for the fact that you're reaching out to your Black friends to say that they matter to you. And I want you to think about reaching out to your white friends, because I know you matter. I know you know. I know what you. I know that I matter to you. You've proven it. You've said it. I think that I'm going to ask white people to reach out to their white friends to speak on this, because at this time of day, it could sound funny to me if someone reached out to me with a tilted head and say, "You matter to me." I'm not pushing away from that. Let's get to your white people to open their conversation up amongst themselves.
Beautiful, thank you.
I'll make a statement, and at the end I have a question for you, Arnold, as a casting person. Of course, I am grateful at this particular time that I am able to sustain myself, to take care of myself. So I'm very grateful for that, that in the midst of all of this, I can be safe, that I am not food deprived or insecure, but that I also have the means to help people that are. And I find at this particular time, I've been taking a course with my minister called The Art of Uncertainty. And oddly enough, I have found my heart chakra, just opening and expanding, even to the people who have committed the unimaginable, because their history of being groomed to think that they are privileged, the arrogance to think that they're better than someone who probably has 10 times more money than them or education. They now find themselves in this position, in this time of bringing attention to that kind of injustice. I wouldn't want to be in their shoes. And I'm not forgiving it and I'm not excusing it. But I'm saying I looked at the mugshot of those two men who killed Ahmaud Arbery, and they were stunned. They can't figure out what happened. Maybe as time goes along, they will get some glimmer of understanding. At this particular time, the world's attention is on what just happened in a way that it never would have been. I am grateful to the consciousness that seems to be emerging with young white people. As I said to you before we started, this is the generation that's now going to become the policymakers. They're going to be the district attorneys. They're going to be the judges. They're going to be the teachers. And there's something different this time. They are conscious in a way that I have never seen it before. And I hate saying white friends, but for lack of a better way of saying it, my friends have really reached out in a very profound, sincere way to say, if you want to talk about it, or you know what, I'm going to make the effort. I understand that I need to make a deeper effort to understand that I am acknowledging that I am a person of privilege, and that privilege has allowed me to be blind to people who have not had the same privilege. I'm grateful for that.
You said you had a question for Arnold.
As a casting director, because of course what happens at this particular time, it brings up a lot of sorrow for me. But it also, when I look at Facebook or any other social media, and I start seeing people write about the experiences that they had, and then there was the time when, and I've had them in a major way. So as a casting director, are you ever able to influence or even introduce a different way of casting a person. I hate the expression non-traditional, because I think in some instances, yes, I mean, I can't play, Catherine the Great. It's ridiculous. But I mean, if I'm if I'm doing something that's a fairy tale, Cinderella or whatever, why not? Why not? So it's, are you ever able to influence the thought of the producers? I mean, people always ask actors why there isn't enough diversity. And I always say, what you asking me for? Ask the directors and the producers. I'm not the one that's doing the hiring. So I'm asking you as the casting person, because I know that you've got to be limited in who you can cast. Can't hear you.
That's because I muted myself because there was feedback.
Yeah, there is.
Thank you for that question, Terry. I could talk for an hour about that, but I'll be very brief. I feel like that's my signature. I mean, Diane Carroll in Sunset Boulevard, Ken, you were at that opening with me, right? That was a pure manipulation. They were going after a lot of star names, and I had talked to Diane Carroll's agent. I thought it was just a brilliant idea. She could live that role. She was that role. She was as big a star as anyone could imagine, but nobody was thinking of her because nobody was thinking of color. And I waited. And I remember being with Trevor Nunn and the producer at the Manhattan Ocean Club, and we sat there. There were a lot of big names they had in vocal training to see if they could get up, because if you remember, Patti LuPone had been fired, Faye Dunaway had been fired, who could sing this role? There were a lot of big name stars they had in vocal training, and we had just gone to see one of them at her voice lesson and discovered that she really wasn't up to singing it. And we went over to the Manhattan Ocean Club afterwards, and we sat down, and the producer and Trevor Nunn were devastated. They had their head in their hands, literally. They were like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We don't have a Norma. We don't have one. And I let the whole process go for about 2 or 3 months. And it was at that moment I said, what about Diane Carroll? And they went, well, would she do it? That's brilliant. Would she do it? I said, I don't know. She's a pretty big star. I don't know if we could get her. And I already arranged everything with her agent. And I ordered the milk for her milk baths when she arrived at the Four Seasons to do my assistant was like, Arnold, the Four Seasons wants to know if it's okay to send up 80 gallons of milk to Diane Carroll's. I was like, what? And then she's like, it's Canada. So she was like, low fat, 1%, 18% light cream, heavy cream. I was like, oh, that most fat one, skin, good, soft. Anyway, that was a pure manipulation. I do it to this day. I'll also tell you, Terry, I'm not going to deny that with some teams, not all, but with some teams, it makes me unpopular. I'm not one of the big 4 Broadway offices. I think my casting is every bit as good as theirs. But and I'm not saying that to be flip. I'm saying that because, I'm of an age where I've worked in this business 35 years. But sometimes teams don't like me because I'm a little outspoken. And I was raised by casting directors in the 80s and 90s who were really outspoken. And I'm not afraid to say what I think. And I'm not afraid to say, why can't this be? I remember the moment during the casting of Ragtime when we saw this wonderful Asian actor. And one of the writers said to me, but what could he be? And I said, he could be the lawyer, the train conductor, the doctor. And I went through the entire list of all the roles he could have played in that. And they were like, oh. And I said, oh, okay, so Ragtime is about you coming to America unless you were Asian. That's what this story is, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not soft-spoken about it. I'm a pain in the ass. So that's what I'm doing, and I've always done it. It's second nature to me. It's nothing new for me. I've always done that. Ken will remember our production of Tomfoolery, and the actor who ended up getting him the job for the Emmy nomination was because I said, you have not shown me one person of color, and I won't do an all-white show. There's no reason for Tomfoolery to be an all-white show. So I called an actor I knew, and he came up and he did it. And that ended up being how he and Ken met. So, yeah, I'm pretty okay with my voice on that, even though some people don't like it. It's just a part of who I am. I grew up in New York. Diversity is the real world to me,
Yeah.
But thank you for the question, love. Ms. Danielle.
Yes. Well, when you had asked me to do this, I told you I had some trepidation about it because I wasn't feeling any of those words. It's been a very dark place. It's been a very harsh, jagged edged, painful place for me. But I didn't want to shy away from this forum because what do I gain by closing myself off and not saying anything, by not expressing, even if it's not all positive and roses and flowers and sunshine? And you said you don't have to do that. You don't have to say that or be that. So that helped. I was thinking about the 4 words and I thought, okay, well, I'm grateful that I woke up this morning. I'm grateful I have a roof over my head. Like Terry said, I can provide for myself. I'm grateful that the people that I love are well and okay. And beyond that, I can't really say. There is an elevation of consciousness that I am aware of, a bit surprised by, but this isn't the first time. This isn't the first time we've done this. Yes, this new generation, this younger group, they are coming full force, guns blazing, all of the things. It's beautiful to watch. It's worldwide for the first time, which is new. But this has been decades of this type of thing happening, protests erupting, some small resolution, and then we're back to as if nothing happened. So I'm kind of in a place where I'm in a holding pattern, not numb, not completely, disregarding, but just kind of cautious, because I don't want to put the cart before the horse and just say, oh, I'm so grateful we've made a change. And then the next day comes and there's been nothing. It's a very incomplete feeling. But I know that for myself, I have a lot to be grateful for. I just want to see more forward movement for all of us, not just, primarily for Black people, because we have been dealt the hand, but for all of us having this change. It's important that we all are doing it at the same time, not leaving anyone behind us or having someone run in front of you. There's more to it, and I don't really know how to put words to it.
You put some beautiful words right there. Thank you. I'm just learning how to click the comments to move them onto the screen. We've got a lot of speak, Danielle. Yes, Danielle Greaves.
Oh, another thing I'm grateful for, I will say very proudly, is today is Prince's birthday. So it's a very purple world for me already, but now it's especially purple. So that's something I'm grateful for.
Beautiful. Sa, can you follow that?
Yes. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah? Yeah. As far as grateful goes, I'm along the lines of the comments. Well, the point is, the fact that so many more people are out in the streets right now is exactly what I'm grateful about. The fact that there are protests in Australia, in Nairobi, in Paris, all of those things, that's exactly what I'm grateful about. And I do have a lot of feelings that are kind of in the other direction, away from grateful, that I've been going through or mitigating. But every night I would look at the Brooklyn protest on Twitter, or I look at international news and see how many people are in the street, and not just with signs in support of what's going on here, but signs, banners that are highlighting issues where they are, you know. Every time I see it, I get goosebumps. And I do realize that, I mean, I don't know what anybody expects to happen, you know, like, because there is not a set goal that needs to be achieved for everybody to say, now we are okay. There are things that people are putting on the table, different groups that are protesting, different groups that are leading certain protests in certain cities and internationally who are putting some points on the table. I mean, obviously, we want to see those guys who killed George Floyd prosecuted, you know, and punished for what they've done. But the bigger thing, you know, it's like, well, you know, what are we really going to get out of it? I think, hold on one sec. Hey, Rose, you mind to close the door? Sorry, you guys. But the thing is, for all of the pain that people are expressing when they're out on the streets, whatever city they're in, and for all of the hope that is behind the eyes of so many people while they're out there. I mean, a lot of it is pain, is despair, and it's like there is nothing else to do but go out there, you know, and just walk. But there is hope as well. And I mean, I haven't been alive that long, but from all of the protests that I've seen since I've been alive that have to do with, you know, helping Black people in this country, they almost always end with a bitter taste. And one of the things that also makes me very grateful is that if or when we get the bitter pill that comes at the end of however long this goes, if this goes for another month, if this goes until November, if this goes beyond November, if it ends tomorrow, if we have to swallow the bitter pill that comes at the end of this, there are a whole lot more people swallowing the bitter pill than just us. And for that reason, I have even more hope that down the line, things are going to change. Change comes slow. I mean, it comes very slow. But the more people that are disgruntled with the situation, when there are more people disgruntled, the better chance we have of that change happening. So I'm grateful that so many people are either disgruntled enough or hopeful enough to go stand out in the street, and whatever comes down the line, that many more people will swallow it together, and then we will see what comes next.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. May I toss out the topic of readiness? Any order you want. Anybody who wants to say anything, you can fall on top of one another with it. Oh, Ken, you need to unmute.
Oh, right. You have to unmute so you can hear me, right?
I did that too, yeah.
I must say the first thing that came up for me when you said readiness is ready for what is going to happen after this is over, or after this has leveled some, to get ready for violence. I'm really thinking about ready for what type of violence is this going to bring up with people, to be ready to protect my home, to make sure my family is great. That is I wasn't ready to say that, but it came out. That was what I'm ready for. I'm not that hopeful that this is going to ease out with votes and and Congress and all of that, I really think I got to be ready for more violence. And that's a hard thing to get ready for. That's how I feel.
I think you're right, Kenny. I mean, I was with some members of my family yesterday, and that very thing came up about how we prepare to protect ourselves. And I'm down here in the South. I'm hoping that it doesn't come to that, but I will tell you, I will be ready for it. If it does, I will be ready to make a very hard decision. I mean, I don't really want to have anything to do with guns or anything like that, but you know, you may have to get yourself trained, because if you're faced with it, you're going to have to make a decision. I hope it does not come to that. I'm not even really anticipating something like that. But even if I didn't do that personally myself, I am willing to do whatever I can to help those that are facing it. I've already begun to do that. You know, we have BLACT down here that's been organizing among Black artists in the streets. And I put my money where my mouth is. And I make sure that I contribute so they can have water and masks and gloves and that kind of thing. And if something should happen, I'm willing to take my Black ass down there and stand with my brothers and sisters if I have to. If it comes to that, you've got to be ready to take a stance. You might even have to be ready to call some folk out, and that's an extremely uncomfortable thing. Might have to do that. Might have to go there. And I've seen that begin to happen. Some of my white friends have asked me, well, what can I do? And I said, well, one of the things you can do is, and it's going to be hard, is that when mommy and daddy or granny and grandpa, cousin, brother, sister makes a remark that is off, that is racist, you are going to have to confront it in the way that you choose to confront it. And what inevitably will happen is that people will push back. And I will tell you this as a Black person, I've done it among my own. When I've heard something that was off, I've had to say, excuse me, no. And be prepared. Be prepared for them to push back. Be prepared for them to get angry and upset. And be prepared, as my friends know, to say, well, I don't give a shit. Be mad. I said. My opinion, I don't want to hear it around me. I don't care what your opinion is. I don't want to hear it around me. And I especially don't want to hear it around children that are in part of my family. You know, you can't ask of somebody else what you're not willing to do yourself. I'm off my soapbox now.
Can you hear me? Because
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm like, you can't tell when it's muted or unmuted. I have no idea. I am ready to just fully breathe. I haven't taken a good deep breath since we went into quarantine. I mean, just that alone turned my world upside down. It turned all of our worlds upside down as creatives, as artists. I mean, of all the industries, we will suffer the most because we need people to gather to experience our art. And I was thrown off of a tour. I was in the middle of doing Once on This Island. I was on tour. I was happy, and we were shut down. And it broke all of our hearts when the producers gathered us on Zoom and said, we're not going to remount. That's it. We're not going to do it. That's it. It's done. For me personally, my last week was in Vegas and I was sick. I didn't even get to do the last week of shows. So I left incomplete. I left, I have unfinished business, and it made me uncomfortable for that. And now, I'm thrust into unemployment. And now we got to be in our houses. It's so much anxiety already. And then to have this happen where I'm torn between running in the middle of the street or hiding in my house because of this unseen terror. I just want to breathe again. I just want to feel a small bit of safety that has been stripped clean away from me. and I don't know how to feel about it. I'm ready for something, some beautiful ray of light, something to change that says, no, it's not perfect, but here's a little nugget, a little breath of it's okay. That's what I'm ready for.
That's a good ready. Thank you.
We talked about readiness after things sort of die down. I don't know when that will be, because now we've got the trials to go through and all of that. But and I forgot my train of thought. I'm not just ready, I'm also excited too. I'm excited because I think this is different. You know, we did not have the intensity of the civil rights movement in this country until white folks saw the hoses and the dogs. When they saw the hoses and the dogs attacking people, children, men, women, whatever, there was a change. What happens, I think, is that people get lulled into thinking that it's been resolved. You know, I just finished working in Oklahoma City and was told by a young white student that she was told in high school that civil rights, everybody has civil rights now, that it's all been taken care of. This is what they're being taught in school in places like Oklahoma, which is not surprising. That it's all done. Black people have equal rights, and you know, at least now, it's engendering a talk, a deeper conversation than I have ever experienced in my life. I mean, and how many times have Black men and women been killed just in the last 10 years, last 5 years? But, you know, everything was sort of sanitized. We just see the sheet over the body, never mind that it was lying out there like Michael Brown for 9 hours, you know, or you see some grainy kind of video. But now we watched a snuff film in the making for 9 minutes. A snuff film. We hear about them. We might even meet people who have seen one or two, but we can't imagine what that looks like. Well, we know. And the inhumanity of it and the outrageousness of it is why people are marching in Dublin, in Paris, in Brazil. Because you know what? They got their problems there too with racism. They've got their problems there too. It's not just us. It's just people of color.
Sa, I can feel your thinking. You think loudly, and I'm feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about Arnold, the first time you called me, I was still living in Amsterdam. Back in 2005, I think, at least. Anyway, I just I saw something some of my friends from Amsterdam posted the other day when everyone was in the streets in Amsterdam, and one of the signs said, "We need to come out here and protest racism." Really? Or something like, "We need to come to say that racism is bad." Really? You know, yeah, that's it. So obviously this is not the post-racial society that people were telling us it was back when Obama first came into power. In terms of readiness, I'm ready to devise, to imagine, to instigate the imagining of the new stories, or to quote Joseph Campbell, the new mythologies, like the new stories that we can tell now that can captivate the generation that is coming behind us, new stories that can in some way try to harness this strange place, this strange psychological state that we find ourselves in. When I say we, I'm talking about we as in all of these people on the planet Earth who have had the very weird experience of being told or forced to sit in their house, you know, for weeks or months on end. If any one person had to do that, it would be, they would have a story to tell, like, you know, I did that, and here is what came up for myself or my, you know, whoever close to me. Almost everybody in the world did that weird thing. It just so happened that George Floyd got killed when that was going on, so people have time to go into the streets. You know what I mean? Like, if it had happened during a regular work day, school day, it'd probably still be business as usual. You know, I guess going back to grateful, I'm really grateful that everybody has enough time to feel it. So I'm ready for what, you know, what does it look like? You know, what are the, you know, what are the new stories that we can tell that can capture where our imagination can go, that can deal with where our dreams and our nightmares are taking us in this period? You know, hopefully there's catharsis involved. You know, maybe there's something there that can, you know, galvanize another way of thinking or another way of being. And if it doesn't help us in the lives that we have yet in front of us to live, maybe it will be inspirational for the kids behind us, you know, who are really coming into this world saying like, wow. A friend of mine, he said, yes, the children of COVID-19 homeschooled and their parents are drunks. I mean, in New York, a lot of kids will have that experience. Yeah, I was homeschooled, I was drunk the whole time. It's a collective experience. I know in Brooklyn, a lot of kids are going to be like, yes, 2020 was, you know. But what comes after that, you know, anyway.
But look how beautiful you came out. So you know, my parents never touched a drop, and I'm not happy.
I know we're going to go on, and we're pressed for time, but I wanted to address something that Inga Ballard, hi Inga, said. She says, you know, we're supposed to be the land of freedom and democracy, and other countries look to us to set the example. And with this horrible trio of murders, the whole world is waking up to the realization that America is sick. I'll say this, Inga, it's not just America. It's not just America, because think about the indigenous people in Australia. And if you ascribe to the consciousness of a people, create their reality, I think that's what those bushfires were about. And where was it? How do you know, the Aborigines in Australia, and I've been in London. I know how racist they are there, and the Arab population in Paris. So it's shining a light. It is shining a light on this kind of thoughtlessness, insensitivity, racism for colored people all over the world. We think that in Europe it's better. We think that it's in Australia it's better. Let's talk to the Aborigines about what happened to them there, and those rabbit fences that they built to keep them in encampments, and the ghettos that the Arabs are forced to live in Paris. Terrible, horrible conditions. Just like George Floyd. the places where he grew up, it's called Brick Town, and they're called Brick Boys. They said, you can't even imagine the poverty of these people. My people, I can't even imagine it. And I've seen it. I've seen something akin to it.
So we have about a little less than 10 minutes left. So I'm going to bounce it to you guys. Do you want to kind of do openness and willingness together and kind of end on time? Or do you want to go a few minutes over and do them separately? Or do you want to just say a few more things and bring it to a close? How do you feel this brilliant conversation is going for what maybe you would like to receive out of it, as well as all that you've given?
I'm fine with us closing it out, I think. Yeah.
So maybe
openness
if there
and
are,
willingness.
yeah, let's bring openness and willingness together then, and let's, if you have any thoughts about, I think there's so much appreciation for everything you've shared. It's all over the comments, and I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Kenny,
Again, I heard it.
put your mic on. Shit. Kenny, we can't hear you. What are you praying?
I was praying over y'all. I was praying over y'all. I am open and willing. I am open and willing to accept the yo-yo, my emotional yo-yo in this house. But some days I do not feel like meditating. Some days I do not feel like praying. Some days I do not feel like watching television. I have to, there's a willingness that I have to be open to that human part of me. And then when I do that, before I go to bed, someone say, man, you better do your meditation. You better write down your gratitude. So it's hard that I have to realize that yo-yo in me, that the thing in me that I want to go out there with a bazooka. And then I want to go out there with and embrace a kid, a young kid that looks like me. I do want to say that I'm open and I'm happy and I'm willing to tell people, if they don't want to know or not, that I'm a child of the civil rights movement from Georgia. And I saw what that change was. I saw what the change was with Stonewall. So these changes, these changes are going to make sense. And I do think with this monumental change, the way with apartheid, when they saw what we did over here, that I think that I'm open to the fact that this is a possibility, and I'm willing to receive it.
I have always been an open person. I take people in and I judge them based on our chemistry with each other. I don't care what they look like. And I am open and willing to have not just a discussion, but like Kenny, to sit with my thoughts and because sometimes my thoughts are really ugly and violent and nasty. And then I have to stop and breathe and realize I don't want to be reactionary. I want to approach things with intelligence. I want to get to the point where things are, I can discuss it dispassionately, because what inevitably happens is people get angry and then you just hear the anger. You're not hearing what the person is saying. And sometimes people are not always good at expressing themselves. So you have to cull through what they're actually saying to really hear them. You know, I'm not interested in cussing people out and calling folks out and dredging up this happened to me and that. It happened. If somebody asked me about it, I certainly will tell them quite openly and honestly about it. But that's what I'm open and willing to do. I am willing for my heart to lead me more, even if it feels like I shouldn't.
I will say, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I will say that I am open to listening and willing to talk. I'm always been a listener, and that's what I do. That's my skill. But I'm not a talker by nature. But being able to talk about it is healing. I feel like as a world, we have not just picked a scab, peeled back a scab. We've peeled back the layer of our entire flesh and exposed something. And we all need to share that amongst each other and learn and teach. And the other thing that I have to be willing and open to is to listen to the still voice, because there's times that I grapple with a higher power. Is there someone out there that's actually listening? Because what the hell is going on? What is happening? Why are my people the hated race? What did we do? So there's a lot of stuff I grapple with within myself that I am open and willing to deal with on my own. But if someone wants to talk to me, if someone wants to listen, I am open and willing to have that synergy, that communication.
SAHR, you want to conclude us? I don't know. You got some strong women on my call with you, so I'm just standing back.
Yeah, I'm kind of just digging on what everybody is saying and trying to really clarify what that statement means for me. If it's any different than what's been expressed. Ultimately, I guess my father's family is from Sierra Leone, West Africa. My mom's family is Native American, African American. I spent my formative years in Atlanta, in the South. A lot of time in Europe, and now more than a decade in New York. And there's different relationships in every culture to fate and destiny, and how those things work out. So a lot of times growing up in the South, I would hear people say like, God's got it under control, or there's a divine plan, or, something about how everything is a part of what the higher power, whatever you call that, has kind of laid out already. And then, there are other places where the notion is like just the opposite. In Sierra Leone, whenever there's something in front of people, they tend to say, how are things going to, we will get this done by God and power. So they will put the two together, like, with God's strength, with this, if we are fortunate to be blessed for God to be on our side with this thing, we have that. And we also have the strength that God gave us to go and get it, So you have to put those things together. The idea is to put those things together. So what I want to say is that I'm open to where things that are out of my control are taking me. And to that effect, I'm also talking about the forces in this country, for example, that I don't have any power to control. The people on the streets don't have the power to control, which is why they're out there. I'm open to the places that we are going that we don't have control over, because we are going there. I'm willing to use the power that I've been given, whether it is psychic, physical, psychological, whatever, power to offer what I can as far as justice, edification, friendship, kindness, whatever it takes, for human rights to be offered to all humans.
Agree.
That's right.
Beautiful.
I don't know if you have a minute. I would just love. I'm glad you did this. I told you I trusted you because I was exhausted with these topics. But we should be exhausted. You're tired, and we should be tired about this because it's a long road. I'm just going to implore you, if you can. I love this panel to get one with all white people. All white people. I would love for them. It'll be a lot of comments. You get a lot more comments now, but a lot of just white people just to hear what their viewpoints are, and that's something I'm excited about hearing.
You know, it's funny, Ken, because you said in your first comments that it's great that I'm calling and touching base and with my Black friends, and I need to talk to my white friends. And I had that same thought at that moment. I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to bring together a panel of, you know, probably theater people? Because, I mean, does this past hour not verify for all of us that theater people are just wonderful? I mean, come on. So it'll probably be white theater people instead of white people. I think it's a great idea. I think it's scary as hell. I think it's scary to me. And, you know, as I said at the beginning, I feel like my role is to listen, you know, but, you know, it scares me.
You're on StreamYard. They can't do anything to you.
If you need a list of white people's names, you need a list of white people's names in theater, let me know. And man, this thing will blow up.
You know, it does feel dangerous, but I'd love to see how honest people are willing to be. You know, I mean, I've had white people that I'm friends with on Facebook refer to rioters as animals and they're terrorists and all this. And then I posted something about Tulsa, Oklahoma, back in 1914, when it was the Black Wall Street, and white folks dropped bombs on those Black people, just destroyed the city. And somebody wrote back to me and said, I had no idea that this ever even happened.
No one does. It's not just them, but okay, you know, this is another conversation, because I got to get something to eat. It's about history. So, it's about history. We need to be taught history.
Yes.
Yeah, I hear you. That's beautiful. Yeah, well, I don't know. You know, if Ken and Terry will moderate it, I'll set it up.
No, I don't want any black. No black faces. Listen, no. We don't show up. I got to put my mask on. I'm of that age where the virus is at my age group. I'm of a certain age. I've got health things. I don't even want to look. I don't want. No, y'all do it.
This is like Oprah in Forsyth County.
No.
Just the white folks. Ain't no black folk coming up in here.
No. What? So I appreciate you, brother. If Terry want to do it, I ain't gonna watch it, but she can do it.
Well, I did play Julie in Showboat. I was
did
passing.
you ever?
So I could pass. I could be passing.
All right. On that happy note, thank you.
We've taken a turn. Yeah.
I just want to thank our wonderful guest today for your generosity, for your spirit, for your openness, for your gratitude, for your readiness, for your openness, for your willingness to share with all of us and help us to think. And again, in the spirit of a brilliant conversation, I'm very hopeful that this will ignite thoughts. And again, without an actual resolve, it will bring to mind new thoughts for people in the coming hours and days and weeks. And I wish everybody a really beautiful journey through this great shift that we're living through. I thank you all so much. You all live in my heart.
Anytime.
Thank you, Arnold.
Thank you.
Well.
Anytime.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah, bye.
Bye, everybody
Bye, you guys.
out there.
What's lovely.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.